Good morning and welcome, traders. It is Monday, July 3rd. I hope everyone had a successful week last week. And for so many, this week is an extra short week because the 4th of July holiday is actually tomorrow on Tuesday. So not only are we dealing with a holiday, the holiday dynamics tomorrow, but today represents part of the extra long weekend for many institutional traders. And even Friday seemed a bit off the norm to me personally. So since trading is such a game of routine, it stands to reason that when the dynamics change due to holidays like this, trader beware. Many traders don't trade times like these. I have normally stayed away from the holiday trading, and personally, I wish I had thought about that on Friday, but it served as a great reminder to me to at least be aware. If not, skip the days that are likely affected altogether, but that takes discipline. Speaking of discipline, my guest today is Ron, known as Large Pips within the trading community. And one thing I know about Ron is that he is all about discipline. And on today's show, we'll find out more about that, as well as we talk about his routines and strategies that allow him to bring home the bacon. My name is Gates W. Adams. I'm your host, and this is the Trader Bacon Show.
Welcome to the Trader Bacon Show, where we showcase everyday traders that are getting funded, paid, and bringing home the bacon. Are you ready? Because the Trader Bacon Show starts right now.
Good morning, Ron. How you doing?
Good morning, Gates. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. It is great to have you on the show. I appreciate you spending some time with us this morning.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, let's talk a little bit about Ron and what it is that really brings you to the right space to get your trades in and do the things that make you successful. So first and foremost, obviously, before you start taking your trades, there's going to be that daily routine, and I talked a little bit about discipline as we began here. What does that routine look like for you as you get started? What's your morning process?
Well, it's kind of interesting. It starts with a 5-minute drive to the office. I've actually taken the entire trading world outside of my home, and basically, treat it as a business. And during the drive into the office, I kind of try to clear my head, go through some positive affirmations, and just kind of replay my trade plan in my head is what I'm going to be basically facing for the day. It starts on, you talk about the discipline thing. So it's kind of like a pretty strict regimen, which all follows the trade plan. And I try not to deviate from it as much as possible, because I found that if I stick to my plan, basically you plan your trade and trade your plan kind of a thing, then you have a much greater chance of being successful, as if you try to just kind of make things up as you go along and adjusting things on the fly when you don't really have any direction or a guidebook, if you would, on the trade plan. So that's pretty much it, for getting into the office. And then when I sit in front of the computer, I spend probably about, well, it depends on what day of the week it is, because usually what I do is I shut down my entire operation on Fridays when I go home for the weekend, and then when I bring things back up again, it takes a while. My setup is pretty extensive, so it takes me a while to bring things back up.
Right. Now I've seen pictures, and yes, it absolutely looks pretty. I mean, I refer to my setup as my cockpit, but what you've got mission control over there. So that's kind of.
It pretty much looks like that. It's it can be intimidating to some, but trust me, every piece of monitor real estate is accounted for, and is strategically placed for things that I'm looking for when I'm trading. So. So that's basically it. So on Monday when I come in, it goes through the process of getting everything up and running, and then I'll run through some test trades before I actually trade anything live, because I do trade multiple accounts, and I use a trade copier, and I need to make sure that everything is executing correctly without any lags or things like that. So I'll go through a couple of test trades to make sure that everything is copying correctly, and then I'm pretty much ready for the trading day.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned actually setting up an office outside of your home, and I think that this bears a conversation because I think a lot of traders very specifically trade because they want to work from home. I know that I have been the same way, and I know I have also gotten to the point where I am actually considering getting an office. When was that turning point for you? At what point did it make more sense to go ahead and pick up some rent and separate that space for your personal mindset?
Well, it all started with kind of like, and we're probably just going to go down a rabbit hole. So, take me away from there if we go there. But the whole idea is the question is, well, why do you trade in the first place, right? What's your reason to trade? Well, the number one reason is to make money. So the thing about it is that you have to treat trading as a business. And if you don't, then it's just a hobby. So when I did that, being a business owner, and I own a construction company and a roofing company as well, um, making the transition to the trading world and wanting to trade full time, I needed to make sure that I stepped away from the home so that I do get up and I do have to get dressed, do the things that I need to do to go to the office and treat this thing as a profession. That's number one. Number two, you also need to make sure that you're extremely focused and you have no outside distractions. Now, having a 2-year-old at home, that could be sometimes very challenging. So I needed to make sure that that was going to be something that I didn't have to worry about, at least for the hours that I'm trading, for at least 2 to 3 hours. So the decision was made back in I want to say, well, actually it was August of last year. And had a conversation with my wife, and she said, it'd be a good thing if you do that, so you can focus and do what you need to do. So that's when it happened. It happened during that time frame, almost about a year ago.
Excellent. Well, it's been a long time since I've had a 2-year-old at home, but I think my wife is ready for me to make the plunge as well. So she actually took a part-time job to get away from me because I'm working from home all day. I love it. I love it. Now, you mentioned the fact, obviously, that you own a construction company. So
Correct.
this creates a dynamic where there is a potential conflict. How is it that you manage that conflict while maintaining that focus for yourself in two businesses, which I think you've made it very clear that this is for you? How does that work for you?
It's a challenge. It's difficult. But fortunately for me, I've got a good crew that understands what it is that I'm doing. They don't know that this is, the secondary thing that's taking up, all the majority of my time. But they do know that during the hours of up until about 9 o'clock, because I'm Pacific time, so up until about 9 Pacific, the calls are very limited. And if the world's on fire, do I need to know about it? Otherwise, they're pretty much on their own. And we do a lot of the planning the day before. So a lot of the pre-planning for the next day happens the day prior. So it's kind of a lot of work on my end that I had to do that, but I learned to kind of, manage it. Since I do own the company, I can pretty much do as I please, but I can't let the wheels fall off either. Right. So, but yeah, so.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome. I know, of course, we encounter a lot of traders who are trying to trade around other jobs, and of course, different jobs have different schedules and flexibility. So, if you don't have the opportunity to be on Pacific time and trade the open outside of quote unquote normal business hours, which again for you might be a little different than somebody else, would you be comfortable trading other hours, other time frames?
I would. It's the opportunities are there. You just need to look for it, and you have to spend the time and analyze the market at different time frames of the day, because the market, the futures market is open literally 24/5, right? So there's different opportunities that are there. They may not be the same with like price movements and things like that that you get in the open for the New York, the New York Open. But like, for example, I know that the London session works really, really well. Unfortunately for me, it's 12 o'clock at night. And back when I first started trading, I looked at Forex before I got into futures. And so that was really the time that I could really trade, because I couldn't trade the open just because I didn't have the time. I wasn't able to do that at all. And that was also a few years back. So things obviously have changed. And I also made the constant, commitment to trade during the open, the New York Open. So back then, London was an option. So I know that the opportunity is definitely there, but you do have to spend some time to analyze the market and what it's doing, and find the setups and see what's it going to give to you at that time frame. And then, you obviously trade, whatever you can, but the opportunity is definitely there.
Certainly. And I would imagine that's going to have a lot to do with what specific instrument you're trading and just getting a general sense of what it looks like at the time frames that you're available. And of course, that's going to be different for everybody.
Right.
So
Exactly.
let's talk a little bit about your trading. You want to take us through some of what you look for and what makes a trade for you?
Sure. So I primarily today, I trade the NQ and I trade the what's called the simplicity setup. And it's, don't let the name fool you, although it is a pretty simple strategy. It's very in depth. It's very, you have to know how to read the market well to be able to be successful at it. The basic long and short of it. Let me just back up just a little bit here. And today the market really wasn't giving you a whole lot of anything. So if you don't mind, I'll just scroll back to, let's go back to Friday, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. You want to kind of share with us a little bit about what we're seeing, the lines, the bars, the
Right. So basically what we're looking at is at a trade setup plan, what have you, that was developed by Daryl Martin, who is the kind of like the whole mastermind behind Simplicity. And there are basic rules that they follow as like so. So you have a solid line and a dotted line, and they both have to be, basically to take a long setup, both the lines have to be pointing into the up direction and pointing with the color green, and the dotted line has to be above the solid line for you to get a valid, what's called a simplicity long. So for example, bar by bar this, here you see the lines are crossing, they are green. And here, this very next bar right here, at the 14, 15, 30 time frame, both lines are pointing up, and the dotted line is above the solid line. This would be our setup bar, and then the entry would be the very next candle once price breaks the high of this bar. That's kind of like the long and short of it. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be taking every single entry, right? Because now you have to start looking at reading at market conditions, and the question is, well, we know the market was consolidating over here. We look left. Do we want to be trading into that? So me personally, this would not be a trade that I would take personally, but this would be a valid simplicity entry, and then you would basically take it. And if I was to take it, I would probably target this dynamic magnet up here. So if we basically step forward, you can see that we did get entered. Stop rules real quick. One of the options to do a stop is once the solid line crosses your entry, which it did right here, you would immediately break even, and then you start trailing the solid line. So here you saw it broke even, and then price closed below the solid line, and that's when you're basically be stopped out. Right. That's kind of like the long and short of it.
Okay. So, okay, now, as you go through this, obviously there is a process that you have. So you mentioned that there is an entry here, but you wouldn't take it. And I think that, it bears mentioning with any strategy, there's always going to be some filters, and that's going to depend on the trader and the strategy and what keeps you in and what keeps you out. But obviously for you, there's going to be that dynamic as well. But you mentioned not taking a trade into that consolidation, right?
Correct.
So you've seen the market just zigzag and jab around, and so that obviously makes a pretty unappealing area to enter. Is that about it?
Yeah, that's pretty much, that's right on. So one of the things that if you watch with NQ is what it does is it'll go into a range, and then it'll like to stay in that range and then break out of it. So the way I look at it is I'm looking for that breakout technically, and I want to basically ride the wave. So what ideally I would have liked to have seen is, let's say if it was to break above these highs here, then I would be able to take an entry and kind of go long. Let's see if I can kind of find an example. So let's go through this, for example. All right. So we can see that the market's consolidating a little bit, right? And we did have this move up after the open. Excuse me. And the market is consolidating a little bit. So we have our high that's right around here at 338. And it's now I'm looking to see if I'm going to get my setup. So both lines are pointing down. It's not really ideal because what I'm pointing up. So here we go. So this would be an ideal setup for me, right?
Mhm.
So if price was to break above here, then I would take this thing long. So now I also have some very specific rules that I have as to when price breaks in because I want to get confirmation. So I look for a certain amount of price movement above the previous high, right?
Mhm.
So that's the top of the wick, and then I would get in. And I did not get it with this particular bar, for example. So I'm looking for another setup bar. Now, ideally in this situation, I would still have an order placed right above here at
Mhm.
like 355.
Okay.
345, sorry, 345 area. And then it's just going to sit there and wait. And as long as the lines line up for me, then I would be triggered into the trade. So as you can tell, actually, this I didn't even realize we're here, but that's exactly what happened. So here's my order was at 346. It looks like a 345.25. So I got triggered in to this trade, and now I'm in. So I was going to be targeting somewhere around the 1.5 dev.
Got
So
it.
before I get into the trade, I always want to make sure that I have a target identified always. And then it has to meet my risk parameter. I never want to risk more than 60 ticks per trade, and I'm always targeting at least 80.
Okay.
That's kind of how my risk profile works.
Right.
So obviously 20 points between 44 and 83, that gives me almost 40 points. So I'm definitely within my profit target. And since my entry was here at 345, my stop would be at around 330. So that gives me about 15 points, which is it's where I want to be.
Right. Now, you obviously have an opportunity. I mean, you've been doing this for a while in terms of trading, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But you kind of have a little bit of a public identity and share a lot of this stuff online, don't you?
I do, yeah. I have a YouTube channel that I don't cover this in great detail, but I do have a mentorship program that we go into this into detail.
Right.
And we cover a lot of things in there. We talk about your trade plan, um, the the psychology behind what it takes to be a successful trader, and so on and so forth. Obviously, not something that we'd be able to cover in our
Right.
30-minute
Right.
session, right? So
Sure. And then, of course, you can be found at Large Pips on YouTube, correct?
yeah, go to Large Pips, and can I give the website address as well, or yeah?
Oh,
So it's www.largepips.com, and that basically gives you all the information to the mentorship program and so forth.
excellent, excellent. So without necessarily making any sort of promises or guarantees, because this is trading and we all know that. Currently, what would you estimate your win ratio at with this trade?
Right now, it's sitting at around 67%.
That's
Um,
beautiful.
yeah, and the profit factor is somewhere between 1.49 and 1.53.
Excellent.
Um, and for people that don't know, what that means is that for every dollar that you are risking, you're making $1.50. So it's pretty good, actually.
Very, very solid and consistent results. So, well, that's awesome. So let's kind of shift gears here a little bit for you, because obviously, as every trader has, you've gone through an evolution in terms of what has made what's made the cut, what is stuck for you, and what has basically been thrown away and moved on from. So first of all, how long have you been trading at this point?
Um, well, I guess we can call it on a professional level. I started basically, let's say January of 2022. So just a little over a year and some change,
Wow.
which is really right about the time when I joined Apex
Mhm.
Investing, which is where I came to learn this strategy.
Right.
Um, Before that, I was trading something different. I was consistent, but not as consistent as I would have liked.
Mhm.
It was something that I was introduced to futures by the person that was, teaching me that, and I did it for probably about maybe on and off for about a year or so, and
Mhm.
then I was doing forex before that, and that was just a complete disaster. So, um, so I mean, I would say really started taking this thing very, very seriously at the beginning of 2022.
Now, so what does trading represent for you? I mean, what is the big why? What is the goal for you? You have a successful construction company. You obviously built over some period of time. So where does trading fit into your big picture plan?
Well, again, just like everybody, I'm sure this is kind of a common answer. Everybody wants, more time to themselves to kind of enjoy life. I mean, I'm in my mid 50s, and it's I've kind of paid my dues, I think, with work and everything, and it's kind of funny, but they say that every 15 to 20 years you go through a career change. Well, construction was my second, and I think that trading is going to be my third. And just it's going to give me the ability to just work for 3 to 4 hours a day, especially in the morning. Come 10 o'clock, and my day is pretty much over. It could be done even sooner if I get into a decent trade, and it's like 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm pretty much free to do whatever I want. So I'll be able to spend time with my daughter, get to see her, grow up, and just be really heavily involved with the family, which I think is really important.
And in terms of construction, obviously, even though you own the company, it sounds like there's just not that quite that much freedom of time associated with that type of a business.
None. Time is one of them. The responsibility is another. There's a whole slew of things that goes with that. Whether it's somebody doesn't like the finished tile that they just got, or the color, or the paint job that doesn't, they don't want this color and they want it changed, or what. It's just things like that. So just to kind of get away from that, and not having
Letting go of
to.
the customer dynamics,
Yeah.
letting go of the employer dynamics, letting go of the team dynamics, and just simply, here's Ron's deal.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, it's hard. It's the construction thing. It's served its purpose, but
Mhm.
it's definitely consumed its time for sure. So,
Awesome. And we're actually going to give away a few evaluations here in just a few moments from Apex Trader Funding, but you are, in fact, a funded trader with Apex Trader Funding, right?
yes, that's correct.
How has that dynamic of being a funded trader versus the more traditional route of funding a trading account, how's that dynamic different for you than what you were doing before?
What do you mean? Like having the ability to trade with somebody else's money, so to speak,
Yeah,
or?
yeah, 100%.
Well, I mean, it's great. And even though I've got capital to invest on my own, the leverage that you get, especially with the ability to trade multiple accounts, I would never think of being able to wanting to risk that kind of money on my own, when you could just risk somebody else's. I mean, that's
Sure.
just plain and simple, if I can be so honest, right? So.
That is definitely one of the bigger perks. So, as we kind of get through this, first of all, if you guys are interested in the giveaway, go ahead and click on the link in the chat where it says giveaway, and fill in your information. We're going to be giving away three evaluations here in just a few moments. So make sure that you take full advantage of that. Ron, what's the next step for you? If we big picture it 5 years down the line, what does Ron's life look like as a trader, as a businessman, and a father, husband and father, I should say?
Well, I just basically keep doing what I'm doing. Unwind the construction company, get rid of it, just stay trading full time, and then that's just go enjoy life. Travel, build a bigger real estate portfolio, of basically um, to generate some passive income where I don't have to just do the work anymore and just let things kind of, you know, work on their own.
Jess asks a phenomenal question, and I think you're just the guy to answer it. Any advice for new traders?
Um, wow. Yeah,
It's a big open question, isn't it?
develop yourself a trade plan and stick to it. Get yourself an accountability partner, somebody that can hold you accountable. Don't be afraid to throw away everything that you've learned and start from scratch if you had to. Because if you're starting something new and you are following somebody that is successful, which is what I did when I came into Apex, investing, I saw the potential there. And again, not a plug. It's just that's what I what I
Right.
do. I mean, it's what works for me. So all I can do is share with what works for me. Is being able to just take that glass of water that was full of all this old stuff and just dump it out, and being able to accept all the new information, and then just stick to it. Because if you follow somebody who's successful and they've proven it to you that they can be successful, then just stick to it.
Wonderful. And I know there's definitely some questions about, what the lines represent, what the bars are and things like that. And I know that that's something that, if you're interested in more information about how Ron trades and what he looks at, he can guide you down that path for sure. Make sure to check him out on YouTube at Large Pips. The link is up there in the chat. So for sure, check that out. Check Ron out. Go ahead and follow him. I know I have, and I know I've already gotten a tremendous amount of value from the conversations that I've had with Ron going into this. So that's definitely a must if you're looking for that discipline and consistency and understanding a little bit more about this type of process, this type of risk reward ratio, and everything that comes with it. So Ron, thank you so very much. Again, I appreciate your time, and we are about ready to give away some evaluations. How does that sound for everybody?
And thanks for having me, by the way, too, Gates. I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed this a lot. Thank you.
Truly a pleasure, without a doubt. Zune.
All right. Appreciate you. Yeah, appreciate you guys for hanging out with us today. The 3 winners are in the chat. Didn't want to give out your last names, but there you go. Keep an eye on your email. I will go ahead and send this out in about less than an hour or so. So we appreciate you guys for hanging out. Ron, pleasure to hear your story. It was kind of interesting because as you were talking, I was kind of looking at the charts and seeing if I could see if there are any pattern changes or different things like that. I can see the charts kind of moving as well. So I appreciate you, and the best of luck with the construction business, man. I'm sure spending time with your daughter grow up and stuff, that's what we do for.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Gates, the final word is yours, and we'll wrap it up.
Final words, folks. It's truly a pleasure to be here with you guys. I hope everybody enjoys their 4th of July. And we are going to throw one little plug on there. You have about 48 plus hours left to get 90% off. If you were looking for an evaluation and did not pick one of those up today, go to apextraderfunding.com until midnight Eastern time, 11:59 officially Eastern time. Any evaluation, any size is 90% off with promotion code Benzinga. Do not forget to put that Benzinga in there and make sure you get that 90% off. You can pick up you can have up to 20 accounts total, as Ron talked about. You can even copy on them, and you can get information about that on there as well. Appreciate you guys so much. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Enjoy the 4th of July, and I will see you guys next week. We've already got next week's show planned, and you will not want to miss this one. It's going to be unbelievable. So I hope to see you then, and I'll see you soon.
Welcome to the Trader Bacon Show, where we showcase everyday traders that are getting funded, paid, and bringing home the bacon.